Matthew 11:25-30. The Son reveals the Father. The Greek word we are featuring in this section is number 3962, Father, right here, Father. And the nouns are all color-coded. We have a new color for the vocative. We'll go and explain that a little bit here. But it begins in verse 25, in akino to karo apokrithis o Isus epen. In that time, Jesus responding said, and that is an emphatic pronoun. So what does he say? Exomologume, si patir, I make acknowledgement to you, O Father. The vocative takes an O generally in front of it. He's sort of using the term or the name Charles or Joe, Hank, oh Hank, that type of a usage. So he is now making acknowledgement to the Father, but apparently out loud that the disciples and so whoever's around could hear him. A Father is used in the Bible 1,565 times, 3962. The Father. It says in Malachi 2:10, is there not one Father of all of you? Did not one God create you? So we see in the Old Testament the tie of a father is God, because it says, did not one God create you, and the Father of one. I had a Jewish man years ago said, well, where is the Trinity in the Bible? And I don't believe there is a Trinity, but the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, which he is referring to, all appear in the Old Testament. The Ruah and the Son of God, Nebuchadnezzar, saw where the three Jewish boys were thrown into the fiery furnace. He came back and looked in and he saw four. He said the four looked like the Son of God. So those three elements of God do appear in the Old Testament. And then in Matthew 5:16, it says, and should glorify your Father, the one in the heavens. So God, the Father, resides in the heavens, wherever that is, way beyond our understanding, beyond our cosmos, our solar system, beyond anything that man can see. And then Matthew 6:4, it says, and your Father, seeing in secret, he will recompense to you in the open. God sees everything that we are doing, but we don't see him as such. In Matthew 6:8, Jesus says, for your Father knows what need you have before you ask him. So the Father knows everything that's going on in his creation. In Matthew 10:20, Jesus says, for you are not the one speaking, but the Spirit of your Father speaking in you. So the Spirit of God, it's not the Holy Spirit, but a Spirit of God speaks through people, and he has all ever since Abraham and Moses and on down to all the prophets and so forth. Matthew 13:43, it says, then the just ones shall shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. So the Father has a kingdom, and we are part of that kingdom if we belong to it. Hopefully we do. And he continues, O Kyrie, O Lord, Kyrie, tu uranu ke tis gis, O Lord of the heaven and the earth. Now here's an interesting structure. Kyrie in the Old Testament, if it was mentioning Kyrie, it would be the tetragrammaton, which people like to call Jehovah and Yahweh, all of these. And to me, it's Iava from the Greek pronunciation of the names in the Bible. But it would be Kyrios, because this is what the translators of the Old Testament translated the tetragrammaton into in Greek. Kyrios, which Kyrie is vocative and the nominative is Kyrios. So the Old Testament Kyrios, Jesus is tying him into the Father. And he is the Lord, in this case, of the heaven and the earth. Oti apek kripsas, tav ta apo sophon ke sinaton, that you concealed these things. And these things is a demonstrative pronoun. These things, demonstrating that's what they are, these things, from the wise ones and discerning. Now, wise ones here, you'd think, well, that could be, again, the noun, but it's not. It's an adjective, noun, substantive, as we went through earlier in the last couple of sections. And the discerning. The discerning, 4908, is also used. This word also is translated into experts. Isaiah 29:14, it says, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise ones, and the understanding of the experts I will disregard. And this is a quote of 1 Corinthians 1:19 by Paul. But here we can see that Jesus was basically using the same words to describe what God has done. And in Proverbs 16:19, it says, men call the wise and discerning vile, or the wise and experts, people that know it all, but the one sweet in words shall be heard much. So the discerning ones, the experts in this case here, the ones that know it all, wise ones, and ke apocalypsis avta nipies, and he uncovered them to simple ones, the things. Now, simple ones, here is 3516, also is used for infants, but it wouldn't fit here. But in Matthew 21:16 it does, and it says, Jesus says, at no time did you not read that from out of the mouth of infants and nursing ones I readied praise. Infants. In many places it does use this word for infants, but here in simple ones. In verse 26 it continues, Nay, yes, Father, oti utos ageneto evdokia and prostansu. Yes, Father, for so it was benevolent before you. Saw to reveal himself to us simple ones. We're not experts and wise ones. Some pretty amazing. I sat next to a man when I was going to Calvary Chapel in Costa Mesa, and he was a lawyer that was highly sought after by the Supreme Court judges and so forth, California, and yet he was a man that was very simple and would help anybody in whatever way he could. He wasn't like a wise one and a discerning one, although he was both, but he didn't show it in that way. It's a really amazing man. So it was benevolent before God to bring these types of people before us. And in verse 27, Panta me paradothi ipo tu patros mu. All things to me were delivered up by my Father, the patros, that's in the genitive, the Father of mine, possessive. Ke udis epiganoski ton ion imi o patir. And no one recognizes the Son, that would be Jesus, were it not for the Father. So the Father introduces us to Jesus. We can be going through life and raised up in no church and just having a job, doing things every day, and then all of a sudden, somehow we may turn the TV on and we see a television program talking about Jesus. Well, introducing us is the Father to his Son, Jesus. He hasn't introduced his Son, Jesus, to everybody, but in the world today, pretty much everybody in the world has heard of Jesus in one way or another. Maybe not everybody. Some places they may not have heard, but mostly they have heard, but it's through the Father. And then he says, Ude ton patera tis epigenosi imi o eos. And nor does any recognize the Father were it not for the Son. So recognizing the Father. So, okay, a person, here he's walking down the street and he goes having problems, turns on the TV, saws things about Jesus, and Jesus starts telling people about who the Father is. Jesus came to earth to do exactly that. The Old Testament people didn't understand him in the way of a father. They saw it, but they didn't understand it in the way that Jesus told them, because he directly came from the Father to the earth as the Godhead taking human form. And so nobody understands the Father, but now we can understand the Father a lot more because of the instructions of Jesus. Does anyone recognize it? And here is an indefinite pronoun. Does anybody recognize him? But we're not for the Father. No. And to whom, and that's a relative pronoun. Relative whom could be you, could be me, could be anybody, whomever. Ean vulite o eos apocalypse. Whoever the Son should reveal. The Father, they're not going to understand the Father on your own, or going into seminary, and not really, if you didn't know him, you wouldn't know him even that way. You wouldn't know him by going to college. The only way you're going to know the Father, the Creator, is through Jesus. And he reveals him, it says right here, apocalypse. The apocalypse, the book of the apocalypse, is the uncovering. And he uncovers, reveals to us. Verse 28, Devte pros me pantas e copiontes ke pephoritismeni. Come to me, all the ones tiring and being loaded down, tiring, working hard, going through all kinds of problems, beating your head against the wall, no solution, or being loaded down with all kinds of problems, and like a draft animal, basically, they loaded them down. Sometimes they collapse. Donkeys couldn't hold it all. Is this where you are at? Tiring or being loaded down? Then what? Kago anapavso imas, I will cause you rest. Now, I don't know, I can't explain how it happens, but it does. I know it does, because once you accept Jesus in your heart, I accept Jesus in my heart, then all of a sudden a lot of stuff is taken off, thrown away, stuff you don't need. You may be loaded down with all kinds of garbage. Somebody could be putting all kinds of stuff on you. It's garbage. It's nothing. It's not worth anything. It's like all the junk you haul off to Salvation Army or to Goodwill, and they're loaded down with all of these things, and somebody comes and takes it all off. Oh, you're so free. You feel so good. This is what it's like when you ask Jesus to come in. Or you're tiring, you're working, really doing everything your best, but you can hardly go any further. But then Jesus comes in and shows you where these things you can take away. You don't need to worry about them. I'm going to handle all this stuff. Problems in the world going on, war in Israel, the Democrats against the Republicans, the people coming across the border on the United States, or how do I get out of where I'm at? All of these things God is going to take care of. Don't have to tire looking at all these things. We want to tire in reading God's Word, and that will cause us rest. And then he continues and says, Arate ton zigon mu ephimas. Lift my yoke upon you. What is his yoke? To love your neighbor as yourself, to love your spouse, to love your children, to love your people that you're working for. You don't want to be the winner. the person that defeats other people. You want them to be winners. All these things that we get away from it all. And he says, learn from me, mathete apemu. And Jesus says, oti praeos imi ke tapinos ti kardia. For I am gentle and humble in the heart. So if you're the type of person, well, I want it my way, no matter what, well, that's not humble in the heart. Or you want to, hit somebody, or you want to strike out at your spouse or your child, or the child against a parent, or against somebody at work. No, Jesus doesn't want you to do that either. He wants you to be gentle. You get more done by being like him. And why? He says, ke evrisite anapavsin tes psyches imon. You will find rest for your souls, and your soul is your life, your experience in life. You'll find rest, and you'll be able to accomplish way, way more walking with Jesus and doing these wonderful things. And he ends up saying, Ogar zygos mu Christos, ke o fortion mu elafron esti. For my yoke, the zygos, a zygote is a pair, and they had a pair of oxen, and these pair of oxen would pull the plow, and you'd behind the plow, plowing up the ground. And the yoke, or it could be you're tied to something that's causing you to work. The yoke is no longer the world, but it's Jesus, and it's gracious, he says. Now, what is gracious? It's also, this gracious word, Greek is also used for better. Luke 5:39, Jesus says, and no one having drunk old wine immediately wants new, for he says, well, the old is better. Now, saying the old wine is better, you wouldn't say the old wine is gracious, but that doesn't fit most places in the Bible. You wouldn't be able to use the words in the places where it uses this Christos, except for the word gracious. For example, in Luke 6:35, Jesus says, for he is gracious upon the ungracious and wicked. So God is gracious, better. And keto fortion mu elafron estin. And my load, and the load of Christ, is light. He's not going to overburden you just because that's not what Jesus does. You may have somebody else that wants to put all this load on you. Could be a spouse, it could be a boss at work, it could be yourself. You want to overload yourself. But that's not Jesus. Jesus wants to take it off. That's the way he can. You're still going to have to go through life with problems and everything. He's not saying that. But it's light. It's lighter than being heavy. Light is the opposite of heavy, duh. So I want to carry a lighter load. I don't want a big heavy load. I'm 83 years old. Carrying a big load, boy, it's horrible. Carrying a light load, just a few little bags, yeah, that's wonderful. So this is Jesus in explaining himself and the Father. Now, the Father that he's explaining is a hard thing to describe to some people because they have had bad fathers. You can be a son who had a father that was a drunk, beat the mother and beat you and all kinds of terrible things, or you can be a girl that was molested by a father and hate your father, don't want to have anything to do with the father. But this is not the father that we have. The father that we have, that I see, is a father to the son. He starts off when the boy is a little boy. He starts walking and the father holds his hand. And the little boy walks holding his hand, looking up at his father. And in awe, and the father looks down with love in his heart that his little baby that he had brought into the world is now no longer crawling and with the mother all the time, but now he gets to have the chance to hold his son's hand and walk with him. Just to walk with him is a wonderful blessing. And so as he's walking, he starts teaching his little boy, and the little boy gets a little bit bigger, 7 or 8 years old. And the father's walking, he starts teaching him. He says, here, that's a car, and that car can do this and that's a tractor. That tractor can pull all these things, and they got an engine inside of it. So he starts teaching the boy, and then he comes and he says, but watch out, if you stick your finger in that thing while it's going right now, you can get hurt really bad. You do not want to do that, okay? Don't do that. And he warns the son, don't do that. But then when the son gets into the tractor or whatever, he starts it up, and the father's there, oh, well, Father, just protect my son. He starts it up, puts it in first gear, and gives it the gas, and all of a sudden the tractor goes, whoop, 2 wheels, almost flips over, and the father's going to have a heart attack, but it comes back down. And he yells out, be careful, don't start off in first gear and give it a lot of gas. And so the son, he's encouraged by the father. Okay, all right, Dad, puts it in first gear, and then next time he just barely touches the accelerator, and the tractor starts going real slow. He shifts it in the gear, goes a little faster. He's learning from the encouragement of the father. And then the father, he starts to go real fast, and the father yells out, no, you don't go real fast through the field. That's going to tear everything up, and don't do that. If you do that, then you're not going to be able to drive that tractor for another week. And you discipline the son, and the son listens and, okay, takes it in, or he breaks it and does it anyway. And so then after the boy does all these things, they get down, and the father says, come on, we're going to go to town, I'm going to get you a nice big ice cream cone. And he gives his son gifts for doing really good. Now to the daughter, it's a little bit different. The daughter is born, and the mother starts raising the daughter as a girl would be taught by a mother. But she doesn't send the daughter out with the father to learn all these things that the son does. The son is sent out on his own to be with the father, but the daughter stays with the mother, and the mother holds her, and the father comes in and sees her and holds her and loves her. And even though she's not with him all the time, he loves his daughter. I mean, this is like a gem. The son is not like a gem. The son is like, well, I got to do this the right way with him and teach him. I can't, treat him like he's a gem. Otherwise, he's going to be spoiled and do everything wrong. But no, the daughter, I'm going to treat her like a gem. She is a gem of my life, completely different. And then the mother directs the daughter on what to do. Generally, the father doesn't go in there and tell her how to fry eggs or how to do this or how to do that. But he's definitely directing the son, you go out and fend for yourself. You go out there and figure that out. Here's a gun. You go out and hunt, or here, go out and fish. Get the food and bring it in. But no, not the daughter. He comforts the daughter when she's crying. Oh, it breaks his heart to see his daughter crying about something. He'll want to do anything for her. And then she learns, well, hey, this is really great. The mother's telling me to do something, but I don't want to do that. So if I'm going to start crying and my dad's going to start coming in and hugging me, what can I do? Well, that's the way it goes. And the father's heart is broken, and the daughter knows how to manipulate the father. She gets all this information in her at a young age, and she can manipulate the father really well, and he really doesn't mind it very much. What's he got to lose? The mother has everything to lose because she's going to be spoiled by the father. But the mother then looks out for what's best for the daughter, looking for, she has a boyfriend, would he make a good husband, and wants the daughter to have a good life. And the father, though, with the son, doesn't have the same feelings. It's like, man, you're old enough now to take care of yourself and figure out the things for yourself. I've done as much as I can do for you. you're gone, bye, and hope you find the right person in your life. Hope you find the right job, and I'll do anything I can to help you, but you're on your own. But he would not do that with the daughter. He's not going to go sending her out. The father wouldn't do that. So here is the Father that I see that Jesus is introducing to us, whether you be a woman or a man like myself. Now the Father sent his Son, Jesus Christ, into the world to deliver the world, to deliver me and you, to be with him. He is the Father that wants us to be with him, and his means is Jesus Christ. But to do this, he had to send his Son, Jesus Christ, to the cross, to be tortured to death, to die. And that must have broke his heart. Does God cry? Did he cry over Jesus when Jesus went to the cross? I think he did. Other religions, what do they have? We have one major religion in the world where it has, you can figure out which one the religion is yourself maybe. They have an impersonal deity, one God. It says God does not have a son. God, I'm not your father, and you don't have, there's no son being sent to you. You're on your own. You have to do this and you have to do that, and there's no personal relationship with that God that religion brings up. Or it could be another world religion that has a spiritual philosophy of looking inward and doing things inside to make your life better. And when you get to do really good that way, then you get to go up in the next level and you become God. And that's that religion. Then another religion is a religion that makes idols. They make animals and natural things into things to be falling down in front of and to worshiping these animals and these idols and all sorts of things. Man-made items, they can't do anything for you. They're not the Father. They're not going to do anything for you. And the other one that uses the philosophy, you can sit there and philosophize all you want, but that's not going to help when the rubber hits the road, as they say. Then the other world religion's not real big, but it's there. It's an altruistic religion that takes a little bit of all of the different religions and supposedly merges them all in together. And when you merge all these together, then you're going to have the perfect religion. And everybody will be one, we'll all speak one language, and it's going to be a wonderful world. Well, it's world. Not with Jesus, not with the Father. It's heaven, heaven, heaven. Our next video is, I don't know, I don't have it here, but I'll put it I'll put it down here in the bottom of the screen.